Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited and proud to welcome Ryan Burke, PGA from Blast Motion. Ryan is in charge of the Golf Channel. He's the Golf Channel manager for Blast. Ryan, good morning. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thank you very much for having us. We've been very excited with the recent changes in Blast. I'm sure many of you, we are in your backyard. We're in Carlsbad, California. So many of you may be familiar with us, but we've made some great changes, and I look forward to going over how we can help you, what some practical application is and what we do, and how we can support you and your students. So we'll dive right in. Blast Golf is one of our 3 products that we have at Blast Motion. We also are very heavily involved in baseball and softball and Major League Baseball. I think currently we have all but one Major League Baseball team using our full solution, as well as our softball and collegiate programs as well. Those of you that are a little unaware of who we are, we were founded back in 2010, as I mentioned, in Carlsbad, California. We are an information company, and we provide motion analysis and performance insights for all 3 of our sports. We employ over 70 people that are really focused on changing the world of sports. Most of our sales team, baseball, softball, and golf, all have professional backgrounds, whether that be MLB, minor league, collegiate softball, or PGA professionals like myself. Little background on myself. I am a PGA professional in the Southwest section. I'm based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I went to the PGM program at Idaho and did a very traditional route, assistant golf professional, head professional, director of golf. And as I was trying to find new technologies to increase my knowledge base of instruction, I started looking into technologies and training aids, things that would help build a platform for myself. I approached a company called MySwing, which did full body motion capture, if any of you are familiar, and really liked what was going on and wanted to learn more. So I came on board and helped design and go to market with the MySwing product for about 2 years before moving over to KVest, which is another inertial sensor motion capture system, a little bit more scaled back from the full body, but still very difficult, right? It's a great product, but I'm always looking for practical application, and I saw the inertial sensors as being the future of data capture because of its price point, its flexibility. I've never had a dedicated space to my own, so I need to be able to be mobile on the left. So I approached Blast initially as an instructor, trying to see if that was something that I wanted to bring in, and then I was fortunate enough, after speaking with them in the direction that we wanted to go, or that I thought they wanted to go, they brought me on as the channel manager about 1.5 years ago, and we've worked diligently to get to our latest software release. So those of you that have past generations of sensors, please do download the 4.10 app. It's in our app store under Blast Golf. If you don't have a sensor, I still encourage you to download the app. It is free. You can create a profile and you can start to navigate through it and maybe get yourself a little bit more familiar as we are going through this presentation. We are still a small team with golf. So my sales manager, Cody Vaughn, is also a PGA professional out of Destin, Florida. So many of you have maybe spoke to him in the past. And then Chris Dunlap is our product support specialist based out of the office at Carlsbad. He's the guy that is going to make sure that your sensor's up and running if you have any issues or you have questions in just practical application. You can always call any of the 3 of us there. So what are we? What's the goal today? What do we do? How can we help you? We have aspects within putting, short game, bunker, full swing, and video analysis, all within our app and available. So we'll touch on each of these areas. Please do put in your questions there. We'll go through a lot of this. I don't want to spend an exorbitant amount of time going through the application itself, but more giving you the understanding of what it is you can derive from this information. How does it fit into your program, and how can you help your players get better using the product? So Blast Golf Solution, 90% of everything that we do in the golf arena is going to be out of the app and out of our inertial sensor. You are going to have additional premium services that are available to you. Right now, we are giving premium services away for free through the end of September, and we'll touch on what those premium services are and the premium services that we'll add in the near future to see if that's something that your coaching ecosystem may be possible. So the vast majority of what we're talking about is the sensor and the app. So what is the sensor? I mentioned that my background is in inertial sensor technology. And what's in the inertial sensor? This is the geekiest slide that you guys will see today. I promise it'll get back on track after this, but it's ultimately an accelerometer, a gyroscope, and a magnetometer. The accelerometer is going to give you the speed, the gyroscope is going to give you the rotation, and the magnetometer is going to give you that gravity, that up and down. For you, most of you most likely that are teaching are going to have some kind of iPad or iPhone that you're capturing 2D video in. To give you an understanding of what the hertz are, in a iPad, we're looking at about 240 frames per second. Our sensor is picking up over 500 hertz. So that's 500 frames per second of data. And then we have advanced algorithms that are ultimately meshing that together. So that gives us very, very accurate numbers when it comes to roll and pitch and yaw. So that's your rotation, that's your loft and lie, and that's your speed and tempo. These are all things that we do very, very accurately. And the reason that we do that is we've got over 45 patents currently, and I think another 20 or 30 pending, that allow us to put the sensor at the end of not only a golf club, but baseball and softball, and really given us the opportunity to solidify ourselves as the leader in sensor technology, much of which is based off of our patent portfolio as well. So we'll touch into what we do moving forward here. So really, to simplify what we do, and we worked with, guys like the Titleist Performance Institute with Dave Phillips and Greg Rose, and asking, how do we want to present this better? And what we did is we put this into two buckets. So we ultimately capture within putting, we capture speed control and direction. I will start with speed control. Many people are aware of our tempo product. When we first came out, you would see a lot of the 2-to-1 putting ratio. For those of you that aren't familiar with how we get that number, it's ultimately your backstroke time and your forward stroke time. So that is backstroke time divided by forward stroke time gives you your tempo. So if your backstroke is 0.6 seconds and your forward stroke is 0.3 seconds, you divide those two, and that would be a perfect 2-to-1 ratio. Now, we don't prescribe that 2-to-1 ratio is where everyone needs to be, but we've got over 200 tour professionals and high caliber players. We get all of that data and we analyze it. And that's really the mean or the middle of what we're looking for. We have guys that are naturally a little faster, and we're going to see that 1.8 to 1 tempo, and guys that are a little bit slower in that 2.2 to 1 tempo. But that range is really where you need to see your players. But more than anything, you want to have a repeatable stroke. We want to see that tempo doesn't vary from putt to putt or from distance to distance. So whether it's a 3-foot putt or a 100-foot putt, you're going to see that tempo being very, very similar. And then the stroke time is very simply the backstroke time plus the forward stroke time. So the more you understand the metrics that we have and how we get those, I think the more that you can apply what we do to your coaching. We also have backstroke length and time, which will give you our impact stroke speed. That is a great metric for your lag putting, for your speed training. You're able to actually call out distances, have a player hit a single putt. It'll be 5 miles an hour and say, hey, I want you to do it 7. I want you to do it 3. And they get a real understanding of the different lengths that they're going to have to go, but maintaining the same tempo. And then lastly, loft change. Is that putter going to be closed at impact or open? Are you changing the loft at impact? And then the other is direction. So again, we have backstroke rotation and forward stroke rotation. So if the backstroke rotation opens 4 degrees in the backswing and 3 degrees in the forward stroke, that means it's going to be left 1 degree open, and vice versa if it was a 3-degree backswing and 4 degrees. So you'll see different amounts of rotation based on the type of putter and how they deliver the club. So you can get a lot from this as well. And then face impact, always important. You're able to do live training where you can see what that face angle is at impact after every shot. And then lie. So lie change, where is your hands in relation to where they started the putter stroke? Are your hands getting higher, getting lower? And that'll show what that lie change is. So there's a lot of applications, not only in the instruction side, but also in the club fitting side, seeing what they're doing with the effective loft, effective lie of the putters that they're doing. All right, now, so those are the metrics that you're going to be able to capture within putting. And then the metrics that you'll see in full swing are going to be more limited The reason that they're more limited is when you add speed to your clubs, you're going to give yourself flex and torque in the club. So that face may be twisted, that shaft may be flexed. And one thing that we do at Blast is we make sure that everything that we do is deadly accurate. And we're looking at, inside of a tenth of a degree of accuracy. And we are very proud of that, and we stick by that. So we want to make sure that we're providing a coach caliber product that you can depend on the numbers. So in the distance control field that we have within full swing, short game, and bunker, you're able to get swing speed. Something that we've just added this year is peak hand speed. So where the peak speed of the hands were, typically on a full swing, you're going to look at that peak hand speed happening between 80-90% of the downswing, so just prior to impact. We also added angle of attack in full swing, so that's going to be very helpful with your amateur players in just getting a level or positive attack angle with the driver. Very easy feedback. And again, we'll go through all of these on the app so you're able to understand exactly where these are derived from. And then similar with the putting, backstroke time, downswing time is going to give you your tempo ratio. And if you add those two, you're going to get your total swing time. So 4.8, which is the app that we have been running for roughly a year and a half to 2 years prior to this April 1st launch. Look to the left. It was a little cumbersome. All the numbers and accuracy were all there. But one thing that we found that we struggled with is while the coaches could understand and learn this app very well, when you're prescribing or giving a sensor to your student, it was a little bit more difficult and intimidating to navigate. So we decided to do an all new app build, ultimately rebuild the engine. We are going to have a lot of things coming out. We'll have a much larger release, ideally around the PGA show, but we all understand that timetables are changing. So we hope to keep that timetable, but we will keep you all informed as we come along. So much easier navigation on the right, a little bit a better understanding of a home screen. Doesn't get you lost in the software nearly as much. We've also added short game, bunker, and full swing improvements across the board. One of the greatest things I believe that we did in the 410 launch is we were able to capture shots that are inside of 75 yards. So to be able to understand your tempo and speed within those short shots around the green, we can say, 70% or 80%, whatever 50, 60% of the shots are going to be inside of 100 yards. But this is where we want our players to focus. And now that we've been able to do that, I think it's a vast improvement in the overall software. We've added a peak hand speed metric, as I mentioned, and angle of attack. And we've opened up our premium services through the end of September, which will give you free access to your short game, your bunker play, as well as angle of attack and peak hand speed metrics. So there's a lot of value to be had at this point in time. New home screen, much more simplified, as I said. The main menu up in the upper left-hand corner is where you're going to pair your sensor initially. That only needs to be done once. It also allows you to add your clubs to your bag. We preload a set of clubs, but for instance, if you have 3 putters and you want to create 3 different profiles to see what your statistics or your tendencies are with each putter, you can add multiple clubs. You can also change the lengths for improved accuracy. So if you're somebody that's putting with a 31-inch putter, I would adjust the putter in that menu to make sure that all the algorithms match up the length of the putter and give you increased accuracy. In the center, we see putting, short game, bunker, and full swing, the top mode there. That allows you to go into which training aspect that you would like to do. Upper right-hand corner is always going to be your battery sensor and connectivity. One great piece of advice is that we do not have an on and off switch on this sensor. So if it's bouncing around in your bag, it is on. So you'll want to make sure that this thing is charged and ready to go prior to getting to the lesson tee, because you can run it dead if it tends to be at the bottom of your golf bag. And then, as we mentioned before, speed and direction, we bucketized those 2 groups so that you could focus your training on those 2. We have content getting started and drills in the middle. So these are a lot of how-to videos, some different opportunities for different training drills based on the assumptions that are coming out of many of the metrics. Left side there on the bottom, training center, again, more videos on how to use the app. The right side is your video library. So we do video capture. We have the opportunity for premium drawing tools, as well as audio dictation. If you want to do remote lessons, you can do side-by-side comparisons, draw lines, and add audio over that. That is part of the coach's subscription. Right now, that would be a $100 subscription a year, and that takes care of all of that. So those that might be using other video capture tools, I've found that this is very good, mostly because it does auto capture. And we'll touch on the auto capture feature here shortly. The view activity on the bottom, that's going to give you individual sessions. So if you're using a single app and you have a player come, you can start a session, put your player's name in there, and create a single session with your player and analyze those metrics just based on the activity that they're doing. And then lastly, the just swing icon in the middle. I tell everybody this is where we're going to spend 90% of our time. This is, as a coach, this is where you're getting straight to the nuts and bolts of the metrics as well as the video capture. So enough with the app function there. This is I apologize. This is going to be just a screen recording that I wanted to show you. This is just the easy flow of how I use this sensor on a daily basis. So we are going to go. Ultimately, you're going to open your Blast app. At this point in time, you'll see at the top, it's immediately searching for a sensor. Because I've already paired my sensor, it will connect automatically. At that point in time, I'm going to go to Just Putt, which is the icon in the middle. It immediately opens up this page here, which is all of the metrics that we've spoken about. So within putting, you're going to see your backstroke, forward stroke, loft, rotation, lie, and loft as well. So I always use 2D video so I can add a little bit of context to my lesson in addition to seeing some of the faults that I might not be able to see just purely on the numbers. So in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see the little camera icon. I'm going to select the camera icon. It'll open up our camera. And this has already started a session. So this is a grouping of swings that I'm intending to do. I'm going to hit the record button. And this is, I think, one of the most solid features that we have in the app. This is an auto capture feature. So I just set the phone down. I hit record, and while it shows it's recording, until I hit a swing, it is just sitting in the background. So now it's going to give me my positive capture, so I know that it captured correctly. It's also giving me the metric that I chose to have it read out. So I'm hearing my tempo after each shot. Now I'm just doing a 3-putt assessment from 3 different distances. So I'm going to hit these 3. Once I complete this, I'm going to hit the stop button here. Once I do hit the stop, it auto-populates down in the bottom left-hand corner. You will see that each of those individual swings have now been auto-clipped to 3-second clips, and all the metrics are attached there as well. So when your players are remote, they're able to do this and send these back. This is the last stroke that I did. So you can see all the individual analytics of the last putt that I've done. And I can close this and close the session. So if you had a player specifically, you can write your player's name in there, or you could just put, this is going to be 3 putts from 3 different distances. So I'll type this in. That way I have some context if I go back to my previous. And those that may not use the 2D video with Blast, this just adds more texture to what you're doing. And then I will select it. 5 to 10 feet is what I was doing, and I'm going to stop that session. From here, you're going to see this goes back to our main page, and this is very important. So I did a 3-putt. Typically, I'm going to do 10 or more, so I have a better amount of data to analyze. But this is giving me my low, my high, and my average for each of the metrics within that. And I think this is vital. So you can see my low was 1.8 to 1 tempo, my high was 1.9 to 1. So very small, and a big portion of that is because I only had a few putts there. But this allows me to now go into my player's app or my app and adjust those ranges. So you can see on the top, I was saying I wanted it between 1.9 and 2.1. If I'm trying to really dial it in for our elite player, if I've identified that 1.9 to 1 is where they want, I can adjust those goals accordingly. And you can do that for each metric. So after you do a single session, you're going to have really good context as to where we want to adjust each of those metrics. And then from there, they're going to be able to see some different views where they're going to get green or red saying you were in it or you were out of that specific range. I can also pull up an individual video, and this is the replayed video with the metrics that I choose to show on the screen. I know that many coaches are not going to want to show every metric or every number to them, so you can adjust that accordingly. And then that's ultimately the user base that I see the most often. These are some screenshots that I did from this. The one on the left and the one in the center is actually the same. I just scroll down. So the video stays there. I can continue to play the video and I can look at all the numbers that are listed below, or I can pull up each individual video and see the metrics overlaid. And again, I'm displaying tempo, backstroke, forward stroke, and time, but you could change those as you see fit. Once you change those, I find that most coaches are going to stick with the same numbers on the display. So as we talked about, the goals are very important in being able to adjust as you go through. So with tempo, this one was 1.1 to 2.2, so a pretty broad range. For this particular player, I would keep those ranges rather large initially to see some success and narrow those as we go. And touching on the new release, many of the getting started drills down there will begin to add more context to it. So giving you different opportunities to practice some different drills, and that's where we're leaning on many of our professionals to give direction there. We always want to be the company that provides the information, analyzes the information, but it's always up to the coach to find the right path. And then on the right-hand side, we do have many of our coaches still like the graph view as well. So on the right picture there, you can see show graph. So at any point in time, you have your ranges there, but you can switch it to the graph. And the graph is a nice visual representation. The green area is going to tell you when you were in the goals that you had set for yourself and you're out. So very quick, very easy way to say, I've hit 10 putts, and where are we going? Are we sitting on the high side, or are we hitting on the low side? And on this one, you can see that it's more on the high side than we are on the low side. And then lastly, with some of the new stuff, we have the new speed training layout. This is a new addition. I think it's fantastic. I was with Bill Abrams, who is the Illinois PGA Teacher of the Year for 2019. And he's already using this quite a bit, and I think it's great. Right now we've got a captive audience at home. Many people are either on a putting mat or hitting into a net. So to add a little bit more context to it, to be able to do some speed training, to start low and go to high, and see what that repeatable swing speed is into the net, I think is very impactful. And then our peak hand speed. So this is telling you whether you're releasing your hands too early, too late in the downswing, and you get a lot of good, valuable feedback there. Again, this is a brand new feature that we just rolled out April 1st. So, there's going to be a lot more information around this as time goes. I can tell you we are capturing, with everything that's going on right now, we are capturing over 1 million swings with our sensor every week. So we get an incredible amount of data that comes back, and we continue to use that data to improve our app, our functionality, and provide the information that helps you and your players. So a very good layout, a very good swing speed analyzer. I think this is a great opportunity for our at-home training as well. And then we have a ball striking layout. Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier with the driver. In particular, I find a lot of value in this just to be able to get our players at an even or even an up angle of attack with the driver, but this does work well across the board. I will tell you that you can see your swing tempo here, and we opted to go with down, even, or up with this. We didn't do a definitive number because there is ultimately about 1.5 degrees variance that we're seeing. So again, it goes back to what we do. We don't want to put anything in there that is not deadly accurate. I think there's a lot of value here, but we want to make sure that we continue to be as accurate as possible. And then lastly, with the video library and analysis, again, I've used a number of different video capture tools. For me, being able to draw lines, circles, add audio, and do side-by-side comparison is the vast majority of what I'm looking to do. One of the major benefits that I've found with this auto capture is on the lesson tee, you're able to set the camera up, hit record, and you may only have 4 shots hit in 30 minutes with your player, but you know that you're going to have all 4 of those shots auto captured and adding context to the video analysis. So I think this is a very powerful tool. Again, you have access to the auto capture, but if you do want to do the premium drawing lines, auto dictation, and be able to send these fully done through text or through photos, saving to your camera roll, you're able to do that with the one-time subscription a month for $100. So going to a little bit more on the pricing structure, this is a product that typically retails at $150. Our wholesale is at $100 based on volume. So as an account, you can open up an account and you're looking at about $100 a sensor. But because we wanted to get the remote coaching going as quickly as possible, we wanted to make sure we had early access to get these sensors out and get everybody up and running. So what we've done is we've actually lowered our price $25 below wholesale. So they're $75 on our website. You're able to have them direct ship to your students, and you can be up and running very, very quickly. So, I think there's a lot of value here. We're always looking at, as professionals, I'm always looking for the value. And I stand behind this and saying this is probably the best value that I've seen in technology across the board. So I'd love to open it up to questions. I know I go through these very quickly, and as with any app, there's a lot of learning curves. So if there's any questions, I'd love to dive in and discuss a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Ryan. John with the Catalyst here. How do you determine a player's optimum tempo in terms of the full swing? Can you touch on that or delve into that a little deeper?
Absolutely. So yeah, with full swing, I think every person is very specific in how they load the club, right? There's a lot of different loading patterns that happen. So what I'm trying to do is, typically what I'll do is I'll start with one of their most comfortable clubs. I want to have them hit a stock shot. And what we found is that, the tempo changes very dramatically on shot shape, right? Are we going high? Are we going low? Are we trying to flight this? So what I try to do is I create multiple sessions. I'm going to say, give me your stock 8 iron, give me your stock 7 iron. And I start to analyze, where the variances are, right? If I see, their 7 iron is the best in their bag, and I'm looking at their tempo and I'm going, okay, you know what? They're like 3.1 to 1 on this. And then I say, what's your worst club? And then they'll grab the 4 iron or they'll grab their hybrid. And then I'll see that tempo goes dramatically in the wrong direction. So as you start to fill out that full swing bag, you can see where the disconnect is. And I do see that disconnect come across where, they're scoring clubs, right? They're wedge up to maybe their 8 iron or potentially 7 iron, depending on the caliber of player. The tempo seems to be pretty solid, but once we get into those longer clubs, I see some big disconnects in where they're at. So it is still through continuous sessions. We need to see, is this something that they're consistently doing, or is this something that's varying very dramatically? So I'll start with some bigger ranges. Maybe I'll say it's going to be 3 to 1 to almost 4 to 1 initially, and then we'll refine that as we continue to go.
And some comments about the sensor itself, or some questions rather. Is the sensor new? Is there a new sensor? If so, is there an upgrade price for the new sensor?
Yes, and so the upgrade price is the $75. Every sensor that we've sent after September of last year is the latest generation. So many of you have the latest sensor. The only reason, your initial sensor, so you've got one of these sensors that you've had for a year or two, it still has all the functionality of the short game and full swing. It's just not going to give you access to bunker and short game. And that's because we needed increased accuracy to be able to do that. So, we talk about impact, and it's a good question here with the sensor. How we capture a golf swing is we go back in time. So when that sensor hears impact, or feels impact, I should say, it goes back in time to address, and that's how it auto clips that. So it kind of works backwards in time. With bunker and short game, there is very little impact, right? In the bunker, you're not even hitting the ball, right? So you're getting underneath some very loose sand. So that's what we had to do, the 4 modes. We had to increase the sensitivity of the strike within bunker and short game. And that's what needed the smaller, more accurate sensor in those areas. But don't be misled. The first generation sensor is still every bit as accurate in your putting and full swing. It's just that increased fidelity of the latest sensor to be able to pick up those opportunities. And with our 6.0 release that we look to do around the PGA show, if the PGA show happens again next year rather, that's where we want to make sure that we have that increased accuracy. So I do encourage everybody to get this sensor. By the end of April, end of May, that price will most likely go back to $150, and I don't expect it to go back down following that. So this has been a reaction to everything that's been going on, and the opportunity, with our baseball and softball, these are teams of 100 players across the country. We wanted to make sure that we were able to service our clients as best as possible. And, we came across this and said, we want to give an incredible rate to be able to get these out there, get everybody updated in the latest, and move forward there. So if you got Gen 1 sensor, it's not going away. It's not going to be turned off. It's still a great putting feature. I've told a lot of our coaches, just set this up in your putting studio, even if it's just a well putt or a Verispeed mat, have that available for players to just throw on their putter, even if they're just looking at tempo and face rotation. I think they're going to get a great amount of value there. So, send it home, see if people like it, and, get them comfortable with the new app and the new operation and see if that's something that they want to move forward with.
You move the sensor from club to club, or you only need one sensor?
You only need one sensor. So there's 2 cups that come with it. They're a silicone cup, and they fold over the end of the club. So we do have one larger for your, your super stroke or your very large grips. But yes, it's a silicone. You transfer it from club to club. You go into that menu at the top that we talked about, switch from putting to short game, and then you're ready to go. So this is very versatile in that regard. I mean, there is no need for multiple sensors at this point in time.
Can you go back and touch on the 3 numbers that are used in the calculation for the ball striking trainer?
This one here?
Yes, sir. Down 3 to 5, 1 2 7. Oh, those are 2 numbers.
These are 2 numbers, yes, and so these are visual representations, and there's a number of different views that you can have for visual representations. I gave you kind of the bulk numbers. I think it's most important to understand what we're capturing in the numbers, and we have a lot of different views for you to ultimately hide some of those numbers from your players, or when you find the numbers that you focus on primarily. And I see coaches, I think there's every different approach that you can take. We find that if you match up your tempo, that your face rotation improves, right? So you can attack this from many different ways, but this particular layout is very simply going to be your swing tempo and your angle of attack. Is it down, even, or up? So this is where you can start a session for your players and say, hey, I just want to focus on making sure that you have a positive angle of attack and your swing tempo is somewhere between 3 and 4 to 1.
Now, clearly, I'm sure the facilities that you have that sell blast motion better than others are facilities where you have the instructor or the teacher stands behind it and something that he or she uses in their teaching. Can you talk a little bit about the education that you guys provide for the instructors to not only help them teach better and provide that service, but also to sell the product?
Yeah, very much so. So we've created, we have, Sean Laney, who's a professional in the Southern California section, works with us as well. He's created some one-day putting lessons and some demo day experiences. So we have, we've got a vast training center. Brad Faxon is a big advocate of what we've done. So he's done a lot of practical application videos, how he uses it with his students. And we provide many of the different materials to be able to do so. So our most successful coaches use this, and many of them are including it in their short game lesson plan. So this is going to be a product that is incorporated with the one-day short game or full swing lesson. So you're absolutely right. When it comes to the people that are most successful, they are educating what to look for in the app. Many of them are actually not using the coach mode. Our coach mode, for the $100 a year, it allows your players' data to be sent to a coach platform. So you'll be able to get all of their analytics sent in so you can start monitoring it remotely. That will progress as we get towards 6.0. But what many of our coaches will do is use the player's app itself throughout the lesson and adjust those goals as they go. So not only are you educating them on how to function in the app, but you're ultimately prescribing the ranges that you feel fit for them to see some success, but also to see some failure, right? We want to make sure that we're putting them right on that edge where their training is difficult, but eventful. And, this new layout is a way to keep people putting, right? We have the hardest time having people focus on short game and putting, and this has become fun, right? I put in my Bluetooth headset and I'll set it just to tempo, and I'll go out to the putting green. I can set my phone in my bag. Typically, it's going to have range all over the putting green, so I can hit 25 putts from every different location. I can hear my tempo. I can hear if I'm getting fast or slow. And then at the end, I close that session and I can see the overall analytics, right? Of my 20 putts, how many of them was the face left open? How many were closed? What was the range of tempo that I had? One thing that I typically do, or I should say almost entirely, is that I always close the putter down about 1.5 degrees. So I finally had to go into my club fitter and say, you know what, my numbers are matching up really, really well, but I'm not giving the correct loft to the putter. So I've got a lot of club fitting professionals that use this to continue to stay on top of it, right? You sell a $350 putter based off of your lesson and it goes south. This is a very easy way to put the sensor on and say, okay, let me calibrate myself and see if I've changed something in my stroke, or if we need to, perhaps look at a different putter or a different wedge or whatever's in the bag, because it does give you that instant feedback of, are we replicating what we've done, or is it something else?
Generally speaking, how do you determine the optimum putting tempo?
I personally, and again, I think this is dependent on every coach. I was listening to Nick Clearwater on his Golf Tech just recently, and he said, anything between 1.8 to 2.0 is what he's looking at. And I concur with that, right? I'm somebody that is 1.9 to 1 when I'm putting my best, right? So, and Jason Day, he is, I think he's 1.8 or 1.9 to 1. 2 to 1 just doesn't feel right to him. He's like, this isn't it. So you've got to be able to do multiple distances and see what that reoccurring tempo is and try to identify the outliers. So, I look at it, I'm a putter from 10 feet that has a lot of confidence, and I look at my numbers and it matches up to that confidence. Now from 4.5 feet, I see a lot of changes there. So I'm trying to identify, what is the reoccurring tempo and face angle at the ones that they're doing really well, and then how do I adjust that in the areas that are deficient? Or is it a player that is very inconsistent across the board and we need to work or focus on a single number? We get a lot of people that are very long in the backswing and very quick in the follow through. That is very, very easy to depict immediately. So while I'm not going to get a player that is 1.2 to 1 to 2 to 2 to 1 in one session, but I am going to start moving them in that direction and continuing to do so until I figure out where that 1.8 to 2.2 range fits for them. But I don't see good putters falling outside of that 1.8 to 2.2 range very often.
Now, in terms of a PUD, is there a PUD price to get PGA pros rolling on this, or is that the $75 price?
It is the 75 right now. Typically, PUD is going to be $100, but because of everything going on, we wanted to make sure to service everyone as best as possible. So 75 is the best rate right now. You can actually go directly onto our website. The coupon code is there. This is the lowest price that we've done in 10 years. Typically, wholesale's around that 100. So it is a great opportunity, and many of my resellers are very aware of what we're doing, and we got in front of that to help them out as best as possible to make them whole. And, come May, I think that price, there's going to be an opportunity to make money on these. But, I personally use this as an opportunity to give my players something to go home and continue their practice. I think the value, at $75 or even $150 is far exceeds, the industry standard and what you're getting provided for, I believe.
What's the most common question you receive from students, coaches, or professionals about the product?
I think, you touched on it right away. The 2 to 1 ratio, people don't understand what that means, or, that concept of tempo and timing. We think about rhythm, we think about tempo, we think about timing, but there's very few products out there that has ever given us valuable feedback in doing so. So to be able to understand, and quite honestly, the fact that it says 3.5 ... to 1, that's an intimidating thing to look at. But once you realize that it's just the relationship between how long it took to get back to the ball is very simple. So once you understand that, there is no specific number, but there is a specific number for you the more you practice. I think that is probably the most. And then navigation. Prior to 4.10, 4.8 was very much in my opinion, was much more a analysis tool for coaches only. So it was a little difficult to get in there, a lot of grasp. But that would be the biggest thing that people are trying to get aware of. And I think that's what I believe is the best feature of this, is that timing. If we can get a repeatable tempo throughout the bag, and that auto capture for me to be able to get my remote lessons, those two features are fantastic.
You talked about Illinois Section Teacher of the Year, Bill Abrams. How did he come to start using Blast Motion?
He has been with Blast, I think, over 4 years. So he kind of came in right away, and immediately he's a guy that really loves the tempo and timing and the speed. He was using the speed metric prior to our new release, and he was saying to his with his remote players, he's going, I've got players all around the world, either hitting in the net, and they need some kind of positive feedback, and he uses it for speed training at all levels. He's going, I want him to have an 8-iron. I want to see get him at a 40-mile-an-hour speed and get him at 120% of their max speed to be able to do that. So he's found a lot of opportunities to stay engaged with his players. And this is an opportunity for us to evaluate what they're doing, how much time they're putting into it. And with the coach account, you can see exactly how many strokes were taken and with which clubs forever. So we've got a calendar on there that'll show you all of their activity. You can hit any day and see how many sessions they did and what they did. So he's been very successful with it, and he's seen a good response from his players. So he does resell the sensors to his players quite often, and I would say he's one of our guys that have really brought through a lot of them. James Jankowski, a UK putting instructor, he's providing these to almost all the players that are going through his lesson packages as well. So the perceived value of adding a technology to a player to take home, I think really adds a lot of value to not only your coaching, but just the overall experience of what your academy is doing.
And in terms of any other teachers, named teachers working with guys on tour, can you talk about any other names that are working with Blast Motion this time?
Well, Brad Faxon has obviously been a huge advocate. He uses it quite often with his players. We have, I think it's about 220 PGA Tour players that use our sensor. And we've had a number of them reaching out for the latest sensor as well. We capture all that data. So we do have, we have all the names assigned with the sensor. So we do see those. And, right now I'd say we probably have 180 active PGA Tour players. And, I've got coaches across the country using this, some for resale, some for tournament gifting opportunities. We did a number of different tournament gifting opportunities where we'll actually, for a 120 player event, we'll fly out and actually get everyone up and running. We've done some swing speed challenges on holes, and it just adds a different flavor to a lot of the different tournament gifting. Right? I think we've all got accustomed to having our tchotchkes on the first tee, but this is something that allows our players to get better and a unique experience. So I think we've got a lot of very high-end coaches, a lot of coaches that use Sam Putt Lab and Quintech use Blast because of its portability, right? Those are fantastic tools, but they are a dedicated space and it's a little bit cumbersome. And sometimes you just, you want to be able to get your point across that, listen, you're leaving the face open 6 degrees, show me 6 degrees closed. And this allows you to just throw that sensor on the green. We could do we do a lot of in-game practice as well. So I'll choose a single club in a round of golf, and you don't need to have the app on. This sensor actually captures those putts whether the app is running or not. So I'll put this sensor on my putter at the start of a round. At the end of the round, I'll close that session. That has every putt that I've done within my active round of golf, and I can start to look at what was my repeatable tempo, right? I can see where the variances are, right? Am I seeing that, my longer putts are far off from the first? And just getting a general understanding of what my whole round was. So, there's just so many applications in the portability and functionality of what Blast does.
Okay. Is putting style determined by trial and error, or is there a pattern?
I think you look at, the putter itself dictates a lot of what it is. Well, I don't think there's any one rhyme or reason. You've got a lot of different opportunities to identify it. Guys are going to approach the angle, the face angle and impact. Others are going to go at tempo. But I think that you clean up. What we've seen is if you clean up one number, you clean up the other. So, what do you focus on in your regular teaching? We're not asking you to change the way that you teach, but we're using the numbers that come out to help validate what you're doing, right? So, the changes that you make, this is allowing you to say, here's the positive momentum that we're doing, right? This is somebody that tends to push every putt. So we're saying, wow, you know what? they're, from a certain distance, they're very accurate, but as they go farther off, they're having very difficult times with the line. So you're able to start identifying, what that trend or what that largest problem is that they're doing, and focus on it that way. So there's so many different ways to approach it. And when we talk with coaches every day, and every day I find a new way to do it. I was with Stan Utley recently, and one of the things that I didn't use as much was the speed metric on putting, right? So it's, we know backstroke time and length, we know speed, right? So now we can say, I want you to hit this putt, no matter what the stemp is on the green, we hit a putt, we can tell them exactly how many miles per hour that ball left the putter, and we can start to train the distances. So he was holding the app and just telling one of his elite players, hit 2 putts. I'm going to tell you what the miles per hour are, and now I want you to call out numbers. And then after a while, he wouldn't even call them out. He would say, how fast do you think that was? And it was quite interesting to see how many players were within a mile per hour with those different speeds. So, it's more knowledge base. It's getting your players to understand how to deliver speed effectively, and that's, with the increased length. And, the more length, the more face rotation you're going to see. So you'll see, maybe 5 to 6 degrees of face rotation in a 10-foot putt, but then in a 30 or 40-foot putt, you might see 13 or 14 degrees of rotation. So you can see how those correlations happen. And once you figure out, this is the stroke that I want them to go with, now you can start to look at those farther distances and see what changes in the ones that are less effective, right? Are we finding that when they get longer, they're tucking the putter inside, they're getting a lot more face rotation and they're pushing the putt? Or any number of things that may change as they get from different distances.
We've got a question coming in from Jeff Hart. Is the sensor legal to use in tournaments?
No, not at this point in time.
Knee-jerk reaction would be no, I would think, but perhaps...
No, it's not. But I will tell you that the trend in sports is adopting technology. And I'll tell you that we were approved on the baseball products for in-game play in minor leagues. So now we are having our blast sensor on the bats in minor leagues, and that's playing a big part into the development process for the MLB. So one of the interesting things, and why baseball and softball has been so massively successful over the last 2 years, is that they're collecting high school, collegiate, minor league and major league data, and they're using this for their recruiting process. So I think that's the direction that we're going. As long as it's not in real-time feedback and in-game, I see that as potentially the opportunity. But we know that the R&A and the PGA, and that's, we might be a little bit behind that, but with the introduction of TrackMan and other things, I think we're on that direction. I see technology as being a much bigger role in all athletics as we proceed. So, that's what we're trying to do, is trying to get a platform that really complements our teachers and allows us to expand that way. And, I see this as being a recruiting app for collegiate golf at some point in time too. So, we are capturing an incredible amount of swings on a daily basis. And as we do that, our information and our data just gets smarter and smarter. And, we are working with AI and intelligent learning software, where when we see these swings come across, we are identifying what those averages are. And now that we've got short game and bunker mode, we're going to start refining what we see those tempos to be. And that's, but we want that to come from the swings and the coaches and players out there, so that we're going to go on assumptions based on the data that comes across. We are not trying to prescribe what we think it is. It's just what the numbers are, right? And things evolve as swings change, and I think that's great.
Does Blast show path to face angle?
No, it does not. So what you're going to see is, let's just take putting, for example. When you address when you address the ball and take a stroke, it's going back in time. So when that putter makes impact, it's going to go back in time to where the putter was at address. So we don't do target line, right? So that is a very good point to understand, with the limitations of what inertial sensor technology is versus your gears or your AMM, your electromagnetic systems that create an environment where you get 6 degrees of freedom. We are a 3 degrees of freedom product with advanced algorithms that allow us to do a lot of very cool things. One of the reasons that we don't do the 3D swing tracer like you saw in the past with products like Swing Bite is that translation is very difficult in inertial sensor technology. So, we know rotation and forward bend and side bend of the sensor with the gyroscope and altimeter and magnetometer, but we don't know translation. So if you were to stand over a putt and I was to pick you up exactly and move you over 4 inches, those numbers are still going to match up as being you haven't moved ultimately, right? So you want to make sure that you're lined up correctly. So I use a target line or I use something on the ground, but all of our numbers are in relation to when the stroke started. So if you're somebody that started with the forward press and then ended with added loft, it is going to show you those changes, but it isn't going to tell you that you had your putter delocked at 1.1 degrees at address. Does that make sense?
Yes, completely.
Great. And again, that's why we focus on, that's why we are so good at putting and so good at short game, and we limit what we do in full swing because we want to make sure that accuracy is there, right? If we lose confidence in our professionals in what we provide, I think we do ourselves a disservice as well as what we're trying to perceive what we do. So we are very accurate with what we do, and we don't put fluff in there that is inaccurate.
For what reason, this is our final question here, and thank you so much for being so candid, Ryan, appreciate it. At what point or for what reason would you change the lie length or style of putting, of a putter?
Boy, I like to, I'm a tinkerer with guys. I've got plenty of putters in my closet here, and I'm just going to do sessions. Very quickly, I just want to say, these are the 3 putters we have in front of us. When I was green grass, we're trying to sell putters that are on the wall. So, yes, we could dive into, I worked for Mura and TrueSpec for a period of time. So, the level of customization and changes in putter dynamics and club dynamics is incredible. I mean, that is another space of the golf that is just blowing up incredibly. So, I can't speak intelligently enough about the changes within a putter that you can do to improve consistency, but I can tell you there is an enormous amount of difference from putter to putter and from club to club, right? How you load the club, how, what shaft length is correct, right? Where that posture is. So, if we get someone too upright, we're going to see, different dynamics. If we put them in a 30-inch putter, we're most likely going to see, potentially a lot more face rotation. So I like to create individual sessions and say, here's the 3 clubs that we have in front of us. What is performing the best? Okay, we like a toe hang putter. So let me grab 3 toe hang putters. So let's do 3 sessions here, potentially with a 33, 34, and 35-inch putter length, and say, okay, now we know that we want a toe hang and we want 34 inches. Let's see what the aiming lines are. Let's see which one you like better from there. And we can, the process of elimination gets us to the end point as a golf professional, right? And I know that there's always a next level of putter fitting that you can go to, but for us that are trying to, fill a lesson tee, support our clubhouse, these are great opportunities for us to get real quantifiable data and give them the confidence to buy the putter that we think fits them the most.
Mr. Burke, thank you very much for your time and expertise. It's relevant stuff. It's effective. It's quantitative, and I think it's out there to benefit all of us and our consumers, our students. In the
well, thank you for having us. We are an outlet to support you. Like I said, we want to do what we can. We do a lot of one-on-ones. So if you get the app and you find yourself struggling, or you're thinking about these numbers tonight, and say, well, can you do this? There's a lot of things that we didn't touch on today that you really can derive a lot of valuable information. So my number is on there. You can go straight to the website. Any questions, go straight to there if you want to get the $75 sensor. I promise you, you're going to get every bit of value there. But we are always here and available. So reach out. I love to talk golf. As a section professional as well. I want to support us. I know it's a difficult time. So you let us know how we can support you, and we're going to do everything we can.
Thank you, Ryan. Greatly appreciated on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. Thank you very, very much for being with us this morning. For the members that are on the call, as usual, the YouTube recording of this morning's Catalyst will be going out here shortly in the form of an email in the next 45 minutes or so, along with the quiz link on that email as well. Please take the quiz and submit it. A score of 70% or higher will earn 1 MSR credit for being on this morning's Catalyst. Want to remind everybody that we are doing, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so many of us that are not working and are home-based at this time, we are offering Catalyst webinars every Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific time instead of the every other Thursday schedule that we are on normally. So next Thursday, April 23rd, we will have Tim Campbell, Mike Aldridge, and Peyton Randolph on with Iconic Golf. Make sure you join us for that. It will be relevant and effective as well. Thank you, everybody, for being on the call. Have a great day. Take care. Be safe and sane. Thanks, Ryan. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.